Kasey grew up in Utah, and then received her BFA from the Ringling College of Art and Design. And then she also received her MFA from the University of Connecticut. She has exhibited her work nationally and internationally. And I remember through the interview process, Kasey had such a connection to Oahu when she lived there for about 4 years. And to have somebody on staff that's also an artist and that understands the Hawaii art scene, nonprofit work, we just knew immediately like she was just going to be such a good fit. Not to mention she was an artist of Hawaii in 2017 at the Honolulu Museum of Art. And then her years of experience at the Honolulu Theater for Youth, she just brings such a wealth of knowledge to our programs and where we really see ourselves going as an organization as well. Her experience with early childhood education and really wanting to incorporate that into our programming as well. So, which I know she's going to get into a lot more because it just comes across, in her work. And then the last thing I'll say is I think we were so blessed when Kasey came along, and then we also got Chloe too. And it's been such a joy to get to know Chloe, and we all adore her. And she, lights up the space, and it's fun to watch her run around the main space with her, no shoes on, and seeing her grow as well. So thank you, Kasey and Chloe. And yeah, take it away.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ashley. That's very sweet, everything that you said. And thank you so much, Miho, for initially inviting me to do the artist talk. I'm really excited to introduce myself to the Donkey Mill community, and also for those of you that have tuned in that have, know me from previous years. I'm excited for you to see what I've been up to since then. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is a Mother's Day themed artist talk. I will be talking about my artwork, but also talking about the women in my life that have been big influences. So we'll begin from my childhood. The reason why I think it's important to start there is because I grew up in Utah, and I spent a lot of time camping and hiking and just being really immersed in the landscape. And it's a very, Southern Utah in particular is very, it's a desert. There's a lot of sandstone, and it's a really distinct landscape. So the shapes that I feel like I internalize the shapes and the colors, and they, I realized over time as I was creating paintings that these shapes and the kind of positive and negative space I was using was directly coming from the experiences that I had and the landscapes that I observed as a child in Utah. This is an image of my dad, my sister, and me on one of our camping trips. I specifically remember we were camping just below this big rock formation, and we had a lot of fun climbing around on it. And so I think this picture is a really great representation of, or it kind of describes in a nutshell my adventurous times as a child in Utah. So a lot of people often ask why somebody chooses to go into the arts and how they became inspired to be an artist. And I credit that to my grandma Norma. She's my father's mom. And I grew up spending a lot of time with her. She made a lot of landscape paintings herself. She grew up in Utah as well. And so a lot of the landscapes she painted were inspired by Utah also. So I grew up being exposed to a lot of her paintings. They were hung up all around her house. And she just was a really wonderful, she had a really unique personality. And she also, she had, she was very active in the local art community, mostly in Provo and Utah County area. And it's funny, I found this article, just like a few days ago, or I think last week. I just Google searched her name because I was curious to see if I could find anything about her. And so I was really excited to find this, just kind of, because I didn't think I would find something like this, but so that was exciting. It's a newspaper clipping, just kind of announcing a show that she would have, or that she had coming up at the at Tech College. So I thought that was really cool. And so now, so nature is a big part of my subject matter. I'm obsessed with it because I think initially because of my childhood experiences, I think the Utah landscape is really incredible. And so I'm really interested in just learning all I can about the landscapes that I live on and that I'm from. But also I'm really interested in nature because of my grandma Sharon. She's my mother's mom. She is super adventurous, very inspiring. She's always, as I've been growing up and even as an adult, she's always been very interested in taking me on really amazing hikes that she's interested in, and she still hikes to this day. She's almost 80, but she's turning 80 going on 20. So she's just a really wonderful person and has shared her love of nature with me, which I really appreciate. And that's translated into my artworks as well. So what I would like to do is begin with start from the beginning, sort of from my undergrad years, start with pieces that, a few pieces that I made my senior year at the Ringling College of Art and Design. My concentration was in painting, and because I was so heavily influenced and inspired by my grandma Norma's paintings, I was really interested in making landscape paintings myself. So I was making a lot of paintings like this that were, they were representational, but they were kind of going on, like getting a little abstract. This is a painting of my sister on one of my favorite hikes in Utah called Lake Blanche. And this is one of my favorite resting spots on the hike, where you're sitting on a boulder field and you're looking out into Salt Lake Valley. It's definitely a very whimsical painting, and it's one of my favorites that I made from the year, but it is, on a 2D canvas. And during this time, I was getting really interested in I was getting interested in installations. So my first attempt at installations was, I was creating a lot of larger scale, more abstract paintings that were getting more into using shallow space and more abstract shapes that I was, I think they were more subconscious, and they were coming to my consciousness as I was drawing different shapes and different mark making. And one day I was having a studio visit with one of my friends in undergrad, and I was playing around with doing these little landscape collages. And I told her how I was kind of nervous because at the time it seemed really scary to cut up these larger paintings that I was making. But I told her that I wanted to do that, and she basically gave me permission, which I thought was really funny. But so then I started taking these larger scale paintings that I was doing and cutting them up and rearranging them. And I really liked that idea because I felt like it was a good way to reference nature, because it isn't always fixed, it is always in flux. And I was also thinking about tectonic plates and the way that they move, and so I was excited about having paintings that were a bit more fluid and not always, they weren't always fixed. So that's where I started to move from the 2D surface and off of the canvas. And then after I graduated from Ringling, I moved up to Connecticut, and I went to graduate school at the University of Connecticut. And the really cool thing about this program is that we were we had really large studio spaces. So it gave me the opportunity to really play around with, experiment with installations and just really explore the space and have a lot of fun with it. So this was one of the first installations I created. It's called Bloom. And I was using a lot of recycled materials because I started to get more concerned about recycling more. And so also, I think it's important to note that I was also starting to think about human disconnection from nature. And I was thinking about how we would try to make up for that disconnection from nature by bringing nature back into our homes and our living spaces, or indoors through what am I trying to think of? Sorry, through wallpaper and different design that brings in, nature into the house. But it's also still very, I mean, that it was created by a person. So moving on, then the other thing that was fun about this studio space is that I could allow the installations themselves to evolve. So to me, I still consider these paintings, but instead of painting on canvas, I'm painting the whole space. And it makes it so that the viewer can physically walk into a painting. So I was painting on the walls and the floors and the ceilings. And it was very labor intensive, but also really fun. And I was also responding to the changes in the seasons as well. So I made this piece in the winter time when there was a lot of snow. And then I was becoming really interested in digital media as well. Before in undergrad, I was starting to experiment with digital paintings that I would manipulate and create in Photoshop. And I became interested in animation. So I started creating these digital paintings and I started animating them. And I was also starting to play around with pixelation because I was partly thinking about growing up in the age of the screen, meaning like, as I was growing up, I remember, watching movies and playing video games and watching television and just kind of starting to think about how that shapes my understanding of landscape and just my understanding of the world. So this piece was, I think, it was one of the first video projections I ever did, and it did incorporate sound as well. It was called Qriket Glitch. And then this was kind of a breakthrough piece because I was trying to figure out with installations, I only had one projector at the time, so I was trying to figure out how to engage the entire space. So I wanted to engage the floors and the ceilings and all the walls. So this was kind of a happy accident in the beginning. I was working in my studio and I had the projector going, and I had a full-length mirror in my studio and I was just moving it to the side. And I had, I'd walked past the projector and it projected the video animation onto the wall with the mirror. And I was like, it was kind of an aha moment. I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. So I took pieces of mirror and I created shapes with contact paper, cloud shapes. And so then I was able to project in other areas by only using one projector with mirror. And it had a really cool effect. This piece also has sound, and I do have documentation of it, but it was also influenced by the artist Corey Archangel. I really liked how he's a contemporary artist that would hack into Nintendo games and repurpose them. And I thought that was really awesome. And I think it speaks to my generation who grew up with those video games. But then also I was watching The Daily Show. This was back in 2008, I believe, or 2007. And it's when, I'm forgetting his name, but the previous host of The Daily Show had an author on his show that was talking about a book that he wrote called Storms of Our Granddaughters. And he was talking about climate change and how the weather would get increasingly more intense and destructive. And at the time, people weren't talking about climate change as much, and it was still like people were just poo-pooing it. But I found it really interesting, and I wanted to, I think that his theories and what he was proposing was really provocative. So I created this piece inspired by that as well. So I have a very not good documentation of this piece, but I wanted to share it anyway, just to let everyone know, this is also the studio from my graduate school years. And so I'll just kind of, I can't show the whole video because it's kind of long, but I'll show bits and pieces of it so you kind of get a sense of what it was like. And I just want to mention one other thing. So this video intentionally gets increasingly pixelated. So I'm speaking about how as a human experience, where our experiences are getting increasingly digital and speeding up. And I think we can all relate to that a lot today because of, you know, how often we're needing to use Zoom. And so that I was also thinking a lot about that at the time. So if I wanted to show that documentation, it's not very good, but I think just to help you get a sense of the space, and definitely installations are not the same online as they are in person, but it was, you know, these walls that I built, I wanted to reference the built environment as well, along with this simulated natural environment. So move on to the next slide. So this is, this was my thesis exhibition for graduate school, and it's called Pixel Park. So it had kind of a similar effect. It was called, oh yeah, Pixel Park. The sound, there were a lot of glitches in the sound, and I used a GIF animation. Those were really popular at the time, and so I thought it was a great way to reference that period of time. And I was thinking a lot about highly manicured spaces, parks in particular, and just kind of thinking about how humans interact with those spaces and what kind of a experience those create. So a lot of my work at the time was trying to reference that specific period of time and just my thoughts about all of that, with the mostly more use of digital media and manicured landscapes. And also I was thinking about, you know, I used to talk a lot about how I was really interested in nature and the preservation of nature. And an artist had visited my studio and asked me, you know, what is my definition of nature? What is natural, and what, you know, and what is nature? So I was thinking a lot about that too, because of how far of a reach we as humans have on nature. We're able to do, genetically modified organisms. And if you think about pollution, we even have, space junk. And so also thinking about that and, what is the nature that we're trying to preserve, and, where is that, because there is a bit of a gray area. So yeah, so I was thinking about that at the time as well. And moving on, okay, so I wanted to improve my video editing skills. So when I was in New York in like 2012, I think, I had experienced a video by the artist Brian Bress, and I really liked how he was able to break up the space in his videos, and I was inspired by that. So I wanted to figure out how to create video kind of similar to that and play around with experimenting with video more. So I created this piece, which is called Southern Snow. And there isn't a whole lot of meaning behind it other than this is how this place that I recorded feels to me. And I will play this whole video because it's short. Okay, so then I also wanted to mention that during that time too, I started getting more interested in experimenting with sound as well. So that was the sound in that previous video was a result of the experimentation I was using with sound too. Trying to add in more sensory experiences to my artworks. So this piece was the first piece I was able to do where I was able to project, do a 360 projection of the whole space. And this was a project that I created for the Honolulu Theater or the Honolulu Museum of Art for Artists of Hawaii 2017. And it was a lot of fun. It was inspired by, initially inspired by tide pools in Hawaii. And then the more research I did, I realized that it was more, I was more interested in the Intertidal Zone, which is a really fascinating part of the landscape to me. It's where the shore meets the land, and at high tide, it is immersed underwater, and at low tide, it's exposed. So the marine life that lives there needs to be very strong and resilient and be able to withstand that kind of environment. And I thought as I was making it, and this was when I had, I'd lived in, sorry, that's my daughter, Chloe. I had lived in Hawaii for 2 years, and I felt that it was really important for me to learn about Hawaii's history. And so through all that I had learned, I had realized that this landscape was a really good metaphor for Hawaii because of the dramatic change that that it has gone through since Western contact. So, and kind of an homage to the Hawaiian community, and also folks that have lived here for generations, and it's a really strong community. So here is a video documentation of this piece. Here. So this exhibition was a lot of fun too, because there was a lot of community engagement. The museum invited me to do a tour with a group of photography artists. We did a tour, kind of a nature tour of the Lion Arboretum in Manoa, which was really fun. And then a interpretive dance group from University of Hawaii was invited to come in and do interpretive dance in the installations as well, which was really cool. So that was a really, really fun project. Also, I feel like a breakthrough project for me as well. And then after that, I became pregnant with my daughter, Chloe, and through the whole process of creating a human and reading about it, I just became extremely fascinated with the human body. And my friend, Lonnie Asuncion, we did a collaborative video performance together. She's also a really incredible artist. You should look her up. She's a performance video artist. And this is a piece that we did. It's we performed in Waikiki, which has a long history of tourism and there, political, socio-political issues. So we wanted to do a piece there, kind of referencing that space and also thinking about how you would want to leave a landscape for future generations. So this is the piece that we did. All right, so from there, I was invited by a friend to collaborate with two marine biologists from the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology in the Coral Gates Lab. And it was a really awesome opportunity because I got to go to their lab and learn about the research they were doing on coral. And basically what they were doing is they were studying the life cycles of coral. And they were located in Kaneohe Bay, which is on Oahu. And there was a really big coral bleaching event in 2014 and 2016. And they were studying the coral in Kaneohe Bay because there were some corals that died and some that survived. So they wanted to study the corals that survived because they wanted to see if they could create, or they could breed what are called supercorals to help them withstand rising ocean temperatures and acidification, and basically to create, help create coral that can adapt to the, the warming climate. So through the research, I created this video, and I can only show bits and pieces because it's 10 minutes long. But if you want to watch the whole video, it's on my website, KaseyLouLindley.org. Okay, and so these are my collaborators, Mariana Roca de Souza and Beth Lenz. Both, at the time, they were marine biologist PhD candidates. Beth Lenz has since graduated, and I believe Mariana is still at the Coral Gates Lab, but they're both really incredible women. And I'm so fortunate that I was able to learn from them. And that's my daughter, Chloe. That I believe that was her first art opening, so that was really fun. And this is my mother. I wanted to give a shout out to her because she's been to almost every one of my art openings, and she's very supportive. She's always been, always encouraged me to pursue my dreams, and she's always told me I can do whatever I put my mind to and whatever I want, pursue my dreams. So she's just a wonderful lady. And here's another picture of us at another opening with a piece that wasn't one of my best pieces, but still fun to make. So always supportive through the good pieces and the bad. So I really love the Donkey Mills motto, how they say life is art and art is life, because I completely agree with that. I think that, and I was just having a conversation with Mina about this, but your daily experience can be art. And I think that the artists, or for me, I think the best artwork I make is from my lived experience. So I draw a lot of experience just from, or a lot of inspiration just from my experiences. And so with my daughter, she has taught me so much already, and I really like her to be involved in my art practice. So last year I was doing an artist residency at the Bountiful Davis Art Center, and they were really amazing, very accommodating, and they were totally fine with having Chloe come with me to the studio and work. And so she contributed to a lot of the paintings in this series. And we made this painting after we visited some really amazing wetlands in Utah. And so she helped me, and which I think is wonderful. And this is another piece she helped me with. And if you look closely, this piece was done on the floor, and so you can see her footprints on the piece as well. So she's my little collaborator as well. So, and I really love it because it's a record of this period of time in our life too. So that's very special to me. And so these are the paintings that were created from that residency. And I had a solo show called Mother Landscape. And a lot of the pieces, or all of the pieces, are inspired by ecofeminist theory. I had actually first initially read about it in graduate school, and I found it really compelling. It basically, in a nutshell, the theory is based around the treatment of, or the correlation between the treatment of nature and women within a patriarchal society, which I think that we are living in a patriarchal society at the moment. I think that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with now in terms of climate change and other issues that we're having stem from this kind of ideology. So I created these pieces from that. And this was from the solo exhibition. This is a detail image. And oh, and I also wanted to mention that I had taken a break from doing cut up paintings and in real. And I really liked that process, working on that in undergrad. And so I wanted to revisit that. So I did revisit that process with this series. These are landscape skins. That's the title. I created these by pouring acrylic paint on plastic. And I like these because they are kind of shaped like abstract landscapes, but when you look at them up close, they also look like human skin. And I like that because when I think about humans, I think that we are nature as well, because we come from nature. And when we die, we decompose and we become a part of the landscape. So basically, our landscapes are made up of, our ancestors. So I think that's really beautiful. But this also, it does have kind of an artificial look as well. But then again, also questioning, what's nature and what's natural, what is natural, what's artificial. Oil, we are very dependent on oil, and that comes from a lot of the petroleum, I think, comes from decomposed dinosaurs. And so just some things I think about sometimes. But and then to end the talk, I am I'm very passionate about passing my love of art and nature on to my daughter. So we do a lot of exploring in nature together. This was at Volcanoes National Park, and this was at a slot canyon in Utah. And she's just, like the little scientist observing her surroundings. But it's, very much like, I feel very much like my experiences, my childhood. These are, I set up process art activities for her as well. So, she gets to explore a lot of art materials herself. And that is the end of my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. And if you have any, please let me know.
Bravo.
Thank
you. Wow. Thank you so much, Kasey. It's really amazing to, I think I know a lot of women, of another generation who's probably had difficulties juggling being an artist because they felt like they have to have, their separate duties. And I love that, you've kind of just flowed seamlessly through not only just work, mother responsibilities and your art, and they're just sort of just melding together. And it's similar to the work that you're doing too with your paintings and your digital art, and how beautifully, as you have matured through your work, how they're seamlessly kind of moving together. So it's really beautiful to see. Yeah, that was really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say hi.
You have to teach like a video class with to the artists. That'd be fun. Well, so I would love to open it up to questions. And because we have such an intimate group, it could be as easy as please unmute and ask the question, or if you'd like to raise your hand. I'm looking at it at the gallery setting so I can see you.
Do you have any questions, Chloe? She kept saying throughout the whole presentation, she would be like, "That's me. That's my mama. That's my mama."
Hi, Mama. Oh, hello.
Hello, yes,
Hello, Hiroki has a question.
please.
Oh, Maki.
Hi, very good, Chloe. I mean,
Hi, Chloe.
Where is?
Kasey, that was a great presentation.
Thank you.
How much influence was Georgia O'Keeffe, if any, on you?
Oh yeah, huge influence. Yeah. Yes, I have not seen her museum. I really want to, but yeah, I think even just growing up in the Southwest and hearing about how she was inspired by it, I whenever I'm hiking in Utah, I'm like, I totally see Georgia. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
her.
Well, she too never separated gardening and housework with painting. They were all part of the process. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kasey. The whole Morinoe is here watching your presentation.
Can you hear that?
Enjoyed very much.
Thank you.
Very nice, yeah.
Very nice.
Thanks, Morinoe family. All right, anyone else? Looks like Chloe.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Haida. Go ahead. Jay West says, thank you for doing this nice talk.
Thank you.
Say again. Say hi. Hi, Mimi.
Can you see Janine? How about Ashley or Mina? Any questions on the staff's part?
Oh man. Well, I think I was just, it was nice to see all of your work in one place too. There was work I hadn't ever seen before. I know I've seen that piece you did on Oahu for the Artist of Hawaii, but really to see your progression is so amazing. And even Mina and I were talking in the background, like, solo show when, like, we're really looking forward to your Wailoa show. And I just hope that you always, continue your practice. I think that's like the beauty of, I hope it's the beauty of being on staff here too, is like, we encourage both. So just never stop, right? Yeah.
I actually, from what Miho had said too, I remember having sitting with somebody and talking about a show, and this was before I wasn't planning on having children, but he just kind of like randomly asked me, he's like, so are you worried that if you become a mother that your art career is going to end? And I thought that was kind of a weird question at the time, but I understand, because to me I was like, no, because that's who I am. It's, I have to create because it's who I am. But I do understand that it's a challenge. I mean, when others have children, a lot of work, there can be workplace discrimination. For me, I don't put too much pressure on myself either. And I'm kind of in the camp where you can make art out of anything. So it's just part of my lived experience. But
I mean, you created a little artist too, you know.
Yeah.
Kasey, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Wailoa in the fall?
oh yes, so I'm going to jury an all abstract show in August, and while that exhibition's taking place, I'm also going to have a solo show as well. So I'm planning on doing another installation. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, congratulations. So you better get working, artists. Get your abstract on. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions for the evening, but I wanted to say that Kasey will be teaching our very first pre-K sort of family art experience that will be very sensory oriented, similar to some of the slides you showed at the end. And it will be our first time sort of bringing people together to really just explore mediums. And we have 16 people on the waiting list, so we're probably going to be doing more of them. So thank you, Kasey, for providing all these new things for us and doing a lovely artist talk tonight. And can't wait to see more of your work. And make more work with Chloe.
Yay!
Yeah, you made us all happy aunties here, so mahalo nui.
I want to thank you guys so much too, because you're all so supportive and encouraging. So I really appreciate it.
You're very inspiring, Kasey. I know you have inspired all of us. Get outside more, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
So if anybody likes to unmute for a minute and just say mahalo and maybe a little bit of an applause for a wonderful talk, please do so, and share your aloha.
Thank you.
Very
good. Chloe.
Hi, Mimi.
Hi.
Hi, Mimi.
Hi, Chloe. I love the
Bye,
cooperation. Thank you.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
Thanks for being here, Mom.
Love it.
Oh,
Bravo. Hi, Linda.
Misha, we miss
Thanks.
you.
Bye, Misha. See you tomorrow.
Thanks,
Haida, for the beautiful egg.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Miho.
Bye,
Bye, Nini.
Say see you
Hi,
soon.
Phoebe. Hi, sweetie.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Oh,
Hi.
that's
Hi.
Come and visit us.
I'm going to.
When?
Hi, girl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
After like how many years?
A pencil. Pencil.
We're gonna start a Chloe camp. She's gonna go live Thursday afternoon.
All right.